Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour. Relief for Ukraine as US President Donald Trump talks peace, appreciates President Volodymyr Zelensky's willingness to sign a minerals deal with the US. Canada moves the World Trade Organization against US tariffs. China files additional complaints with the WTO against Trump's tariff measures. Greenland's Prime Minister snubs Trump, says his people will determine their own future after the US President renews pitch to annex the island. EU leaders set to meet for a special summit on European defense and Ukraine on Thursday. Ukraine's President Zelenskyy has been invited for it. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi tells a post-budget webinar that the vision of investment in people stands on three pillars of education, skill and healthcare. US President Donald Trump delivered a triumphant address to the US legislature on Tuesday, highlighting a string of bold policy moves that have reshaped US foreign relations, triggered trade disputes with key allies, and significantly reduced the government workforce, all within his first 6 weeks in office. At 1 hour and 40 minutes, it was the longest ever such address.
America is back.
With these words, US President Donald Trump began his first address to a joint session of Congress after taking office. He didn't stop there. He vowed to plant the American flag on Mars.
We are going to conquer the vast frontiers of science, and we are going to lead humanity into space and plant the American flag on the planet Mars and even far beyond.
Much like his 2024 campaign, Trump used Tuesday's speech to talk about securing the US-Mexico border and the executive orders he issued, including deploying military members to the area.
I declared a national emergency on our southern border, and I deployed the US military and border patrol to repel the invasion of our country. And what a job they've done. As a result, illegal border crossings last month were by far the lowest ever recorded, ever.
He even extended the offer of joining the US to the citizens of Greenland and said, one way or the other, we're going to get it. As time and again, he promised to take over Greenland and the Panama Canal.
Great job. And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security.
Trump also announced his plans to implement reciprocal tariffs in the near future on several countries. The US will raise its tariff rate for goods from another country to whatever that country's levies on US products from April 2nd. Appreciating Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, Trump said he received a letter from Zelenskyy agreeing to come to the negotiating table to strike a peace deal in Ukraine.
I received an important letter from President Zelenskyy of Ukraine. The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you.
In all, US President Donald Trump's address to Congress was a characteristic blend of triumphalism, policy pronouncements, and cultural warfare. Bureau Report, DD India.
The world has responded with alarm and caution after Trump announced that reciprocal tariffs will kick in from the 2nd of April. In a sharp retort, China warned of a fight to the end. Even friends and allies have slammed it, with Canada calling it a dumb move, and Australia saying that Trump's second term is already more disruptive than his first.
Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says US tariffs are a very dumb thing to do and that Ottawa is striking back immediately.
So today, the United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make that make sense. Canadians are reasonable, and we are polite, but we will not back down from a fight. Not when our country and the well-being of everyone in it is at stake. At the moment, the US tariffs came into effect in the early hours of this morning, and so did the Canadian response. Canada will be implementing 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods, starting with tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods immediately, and tariffs on the remaining $125 billion of American products in 21 days' time.
Trudeau cites the Wall Street Journal newspaper's report carried in January that Trump would be launching the dumbest trade war in the history if he went ahead.
Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
So be it, retorts China, as its foreign ministry's spokesperson warns on X, if war is what the US wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we are ready to fight till the end.
The US has insisted on using the fentanyl issue as an excuse to once again impose tariffs on Chinese products exported to the United States. China has repeatedly stated its opposition and taken legitimate and necessary countermeasures. If the US really wants to resolve the fentanyl issue, it should consult with China on the basis of equality, respect, and mutual benefits to resolve their respective concerns.
An economist from Bulgaria warns that trade measures taken by the US risk pushing up commodity prices and disrupting global trade markets.
Which means that we are going to have a situation of more inflation in the coming months because higher tariffs means higher prices. The expected amount could be 5 to 10% at least increase in pricing, especially also goods like cars, motor industry, also machines, machinery, also in agriculture sector, raw materials, and all these services.
South Korea's trade ministry says Seoul will actively communicate with Washington, D.C. about tariff rates via multiple channels. Australia's foreign minister says Trump's second term is already more disruptive than his first. Penny Wong says that there is no doubt from Trump's flurry of executive orders since taking office just over 6 weeks ago that Australia is dealing with a very different US government. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, Trump's blanket tariff imposition on Canadian, Chinese and Mexican imports drew quick retaliation from the three major trade partners of the US. They vowed to slap similar counter taxes on American imports. Consequently, consumers as well as markets across the globe brace for uncertain times.
Tariffs 25%.
A trade war looms large after US President Donald Trump's imposition of new 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada and a total 20% levy on Chinese goods. While the move has drawn immediate retaliation from America's three biggest trading partners, consumers across these nations as well as US apprehend uncertain times amid fears of possible price rise. Taking reciprocal action, China announced its own 10 to 15% tariff on US agricultural products and foods, from wheat, corn and cotton to soybeans, beef, chicken and dairy. Beijing also placed 25 US firms under export and investment restrictions, citing what it said were national security concerns. Beijing set an ambitious annual growth target of around 5% on Wednesday, vowing to make domestic demand its main economic driver as an escalating trade war with the United States hits its exports.
The main targets for development this year are projected as follows: GDP growth of around 5%, surveyed urban unemployment rate of around 5.5%, over 12 million new urban jobs, CPI increase of around 2%.
Canada also announced reciprocal tariffs. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Canada would impose a $30 billion counter tariff on goods imported from the US, immediately escalating to $155 billion within the next 21 days. Canada has also filed a complaint with the World Trade Organization against the United States. A WTO official confirmed that Canada initiated dispute proceedings against the US at the WTO on additional tariffs, following a similar complaint filed by Beijing over fresh US levies on Chinese goods. Mexican president also vowed retaliation to inconceivable tariffs. Claudia Sheinbaum said on Tuesday that her country would respond to the 25% tariffs imposed by the Trump administration with its own retaliatory tariffs and non-tariff measures.
There's no motive, reason, or justification to support this move that will affect our peoples and nations. We have said it in different ways. Cooperation and coordination, yes. Subordination and interventionism, no. Mexico must be respected. We are equal nations.
The escalating trade war sends financial markets into a tailspin as the US faces the threat of rekindled inflation and paralyzing uncertainty for business. Raghav Kumar Jha's report for DD India.
And Trump's latest address, in which he spoke about annexing Greenland and reclaim the Panama Canal, has sparked a global reaction. Both Denmark and Greenland were quick to reject them out of hand. Greenland reiterated its right to self-determination. Trump's comments were fueled by strategic interests, including military significance and mineral wealth in Greenland, as well as economic security linked to the Panama Canal.
The US president's latest remarks on reclaiming the Panama Canal and asking Greenland to join the United States have drawn reactions from the parties involved. In his presidential address to the Congress on Tuesday, President Donald Trump urged Greenland to join the US, but vowed to take the Danish-ruled island one way or the other, a proposal that Denmark swiftly rejected on Wednesday.
Great job. And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security.
In response to President Trump's remarks, Greenland's Prime Minister Mute Egede stated on Wednesday that the Greenlandic people will determine their own future and do not wish to be either Danish or American. Meanwhile, Denmark's foreign minister sharply reacted to President Trump's overtures on Greenland, emphasizing that it was a positive development that the US president acknowledged the island's right to self-determination.
First of all, I would like to draw the attention to the fact that he said we respect the Greenlandics' right to self-determination, and that, I think, was the most important part of that speech. And I am very optimistic about what will be a Greenlandic decision about this. They want to loosen their ties to Denmark. We are working on that to have a more equal relationship.
US eyes expanding military presence in Greenland amid growing Russian threat, a key gateway for US defense against Russian naval power. Greenland's rich resources and geopolitical importance are considered crucial assets for the US and NATO. Trump's interest in Greenland stems from its strategic military significance, particularly for the US ballistic missile early warning system and its proximity to Russian naval routes. The island is rich in critical minerals like lithium and graphite, vital for electric vehicles and batteries. Despite this, Greenland's economy is still heavily reliant on fishing and subsidies from Denmark. During his address to the Congress, President Donald Trump also stated that his administration would work to reclaim the Panama Canal, asserting that it was given to Panama, not China. Why Panama Canal matters to the US? The Panama Canal is a vital link that transforms global shipping by connecting oceans and saving time. Panama's president refuted Trump's claims. Panama's leadership denies any Chinese control over the canal. The Panama Canal is a key waterway with 40% of US container shipping passing through it. Trump claimed the US needs it for economic security. The canal connects the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic, providing a strategic shortcut for global trade. Rabindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. New Israeli military chief assumes command with Gaza ceasefire in the balance. Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko offers to host peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. And the space agencies of the US and Italy successfully acquire GPS signals on the moon.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Qatar on Wednesday rebuffed what it said were false accusations by Israel's domestic security agency, attributing funds from the Gulf state to an increase in Hamas's military strength before its unprecedented 2023 attacks. The security agencies published findings from an internal probe on Tuesday, acknowledging its own failings in preventing the over-border attack from Gaza, which sparked 15 months of war. The Shin Bet report said the influx of Qatari funds and their transfer to the military wing was one of the main reasons for the strengthening of Hamas that allowed it to launch the attacks. And staying in West Asia, Israel gets a new military chief in Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir. He was appointed on the post at a ceremony held in Tel Aviv on Wednesday. It follows the resignation of Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi over the military's failure to prevent the 2023 Hamas attacks. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz attended the ceremony. A new military chief takes over at a time when the Gaza ceasefire remains fragile. Defense Minister Katz said that his forces could resume fighting if all remaining hostages are not released. Shifting focus to Europe now, European Union leaders will convene on Thursday for a special European Council summit focused on European defense and continued support for Ukraine. In a statement on Wednesday, the European Council said that leaders will assess how the EU can further assist Ukraine and establish principles for future actions. Discussions will also cover European contributions to security guarantees aimed at ensuring lasting peace in Ukraine. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has been invited to participate in the meeting. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has proposed a plan to mobilize $844 billion for European defense, a topic likely to be discussed at the summit. The European Commission said on Wednesday that it would stick to its 2035 target that all new cars and vans sold in the EU would no longer emit carbon dioxide and will also abide by its intermediate target for 2030. The European Commission yielded to pressure from European automakers on Monday by giving them 3 years rather than 1 to comply with emission targets and avoid heavy fines. EU Transport Commissioner on Wednesday presented the EU Executive's action plan to ensure that EU car producers electrify their fleets and compete with more advanced US and Chinese rivals. He said a planned review of emission regulations in 2026 would be brought forward to the third and fourth quarter of this year, but said that targets themselves would not change. EU auto manufacturers say that the longer compliance period for the 2025 targets will still be hard to meet. U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz told reporters on Wednesday that the U.S. had taken a step back and that Washington, D.C. was reviewing all aspects of its intelligence relationship with Ukraine. Waltz said that the top U.S. was actively engaged in talks with Ukraine about moving the negotiations on a minerals deal forward and a potential peace deal with Russia.
We have taken a step back and are pausing and reviewing all aspects of this relationship. But I just got off the phone before I walked out here with my counterpart, the Ukrainian National Security Advisor. We are having good talks on a location for the next round of negotiations, on delegations, on substance. So just in the last 24 hours, since the public statement from Zelenskyy, and then these subsequent conversations, which I'm going to walk inside and continue, I think we're going to see movement in very short order.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer told the country's parliament on Wednesday that he's doing everything he can to mend the US-Ukraine relations.
We need to do everything we can to ensure that the US, Europe and Ukraine are working together on lasting peace. And I'm doing everything I can to play my part in that, in regular contact with all of the key players at the moment, including talking to President Zelenskyy yesterday afternoon.
Russia has responded positively to Zelenskyy's openness to negotiations, but the Kremlin remains uncertain about how such talks would proceed given Kyiv's legal restrictions on engaging with Moscow. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said that Ukraine still has a legal ban on negotiations with Russia. The restriction stems from a 2022 decree by Zelenskyy, which explicitly rules out talks with Russia.
It is positive. The question is who to negotiate with. As of now, the Ukrainian president is still legally prohibited from negotiating with the Russian side. Therefore, the overall approach is positive, but the nuances have not changed yet.
Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko has offered to host peace talks between Ukraine and Russia, suggesting that US officials could also be involved. His remarks came in an interview on Wednesday. Lukashenko said the need for negotiations, proposing Belarus as a neutral venue. He highlighted the proximity of Kyiv to the Belarusian border, stressing that discussions could take place quickly and efficiently.
We need to negotiate. If you want, come here. It's not far, 200 kilometers from the Belarusian border to Kyiv, maybe 500 kilometers, half an hour by plane. Come, we'll sit here, calmly, without noise, without shouting, we'll reach an agreement. Therefore, tell Trump I'm waiting for him along with Putin and Zelenskyy. We'll sit down and calmly negotiate if you want to reach an agreement.
Visiting Italian President Sergio Mattarella said that his country and Japan are committed to ending the Ukraine-Russia war following a meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru in Tokyo on Wednesday. The meeting comes as the two countries enhance bilateral cooperation in areas such as defense, economy and culture. Italy and Japan in November 2024 signed the Acquisition and Cross-Service Agreement to facilitate acquisitions, supplies, exchanges in the military field and quickly mobilizing aid in case of emergencies and natural disasters. For the first time ever, the space agencies of the US and Italy use GPS on the moon. Now, this means that for the first time, signals from the US Global Positioning System were received and tracked on the moon. NASA and Italian Space Agency made history on 3rd March when their joint mission became the first technology demonstration to acquire and track Earth-based navigation signals on the moon's surface. It indicates that the signals can be received and tracked on the moon. It also means that NASA's Artemis missions or other exploration missions could benefit from these signals to accurately and autonomously determine their position, velocity and time. And now take a look at what else is making news around the world. The US top court on Wednesday rejected a bid by President Donald Trump to freeze some $2 billion in foreign aid payments as part of his efforts to slash government spending. The court voted 5-4 to uphold a lower court ruling requiring the administration to make payments on contracts which have already been completed. Greece's main opposition parties will submit a censure motion against the centre-right government following mass protests over a 2023 deadly train crash last week. Opposition parties said that the government has lost its popular mandate and accused of failing to assume responsibility over the train crash. Malaysia has entered into a partnership with Arm Holdings committed to pay $250 million over the next 10 years to acquire the company's chip design plans. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim said the agreement with Arm will allow Malaysia to design, manufacture, test and assemble AI chips that will be sold globally. And still to come on DD India News Hour. An analysis of Trump's address and what's in it for India and the world at large. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar holds talks with his British counterpart David Lammy. And robust demand propels India's services sector growth in February.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. Relief for Ukraine as US President Donald Trump talks peace, appreciates President Volodymyr Zelensky's willingness to sign a minerals deal with the US. Canada moves the World Trade Organization against US tariffs. China filed additional complaints with WTO against new US tariff measures. Greenland's Prime Minister snubs Trump, says his people will determine their own future after the US President renews pitch to annex the island. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi tells a post-budget webinar that the vision of investment in people stands on three pillars of education, skill and healthcare. Right, going back to the top story, Trump's address, and joining us to put the text of Trump's speech in its proper context for you is Mr. Pinag Ranjan Chakrabarti. Mr. Chakrabarti is a former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh and Ambassador to Thailand. He has also served in the Indian diplomatic missions in Cairo, Jeddah, London, Karachi and Tel Aviv. Ambassador, welcome to DD India News Up. Let me start by asking you about Trump's announcement to impose tariffs on more countries from April. Foolhardy, myopic, eminently avoidable. Is Trump cutting his nose to spite his face? How would you describe it?
Well, he's been saying this for a long time. I mean, that he'd like to impose reciprocal tariffs, which basically means that the WTO regime that has been the pillar of international trade, he wants to reject all that. I mean, he's a disruptive kind of a person who thinks that by using such tactics, he'll be able to get a better deal for his country. Now, I don't know whether he will succeed or not, but this is what his plan is, that I will disrupt everything and then we will settle down somewhere to negotiations, to a kind of an agreement. So let's see how he goes forward. But I'm afraid we are going to see a lot of disruption, and also it'll be a financial kind of a disruption, because already the American stock market is down. It is affecting all the stock markets, except I suppose for the Chinese stock markets, because they seem to be quite, upbeat still. So there is some, mystery in all this that we are yet to unravel.
Ambassador, another headline coming out of Trump's speech was that Zelenskyy has written a letter to Trump saying that Zelenskyy is ready to sign a minerals deal with the U.S. without insisting on U.S. security guarantees. Trump says he's received strong signals from Putin that Russia is ready for peace. So after the Trump-Zelenskyy verbal spat, have prospects for peace brightened?
I hope so, but I'm not so sure, because these are all negotiating tactics. I think Zelenskyy also is negotiating by sort of saying that, oh, okay, I'm ready for peace. I don't need security guarantees. Because don't forget that the Europeans have come up with some support for him, and he thinks that that kind of a support might replace the American support that he has got in terms of money and defense supplies. So I don't know. I mean, I think this is all kinds of it's a very complex situation, and everybody's sort of playing their cards in a different way with their interests in mind. So I don't know, but I have a feeling that ultimately Ukraine, because Ukraine is the weakest link in all this, is that they may succumb to these pressures. And but I also think that the geopolitical situation in terms of the old order, which saw NATO and the alliance between the Europeans and the Americans coming under a lot of strain, and that itself is a wake-up call for the rest of the world. But then there is China, and then he's threatening tariffs on India. We will deal with it. I'm sure our policymakers have already decided how to deal with it. And I think it's possible to deal with that because we do have, I mean, to be honest, higher tariffs, and I think we have the cushion to reduce it. So I think we are okay, and we can use this as an opportunity to do a trade deal with the USA.
Ambassador, Trump has rubbed more countries the wrong way. In his address, he spoke about reclaiming the Panama Canal, and that has already started doing it. It coincides with the news of Hong Kong billionaire agreeing to sell most of his company's stake in two key ports on the Panama Canal to a group led by U.S. investment firm BlackRock. What's the real story behind Trump's singular focus on controlling the Panama Canal?
It's very simple. It's about, constraining China, because a Chinese company was controlling that. And I think Trump feels that is, for example, a strategic threat. For example, if the Chinese companies closes the canal and and American ships and others, including warships, cannot pass through it, then it would constrain America's strategic interests. So I think that is the reason why he's done it. So far, I think the Chinese company which controls the services there has not done it. But who knows? Because of his other aspects, other policies like increasing the tariffs on China, and the China responding, saying that they are prepared for any kind of war. So I think this is the kind of rhetoric that is taking place, and I think the Trump has decided that it's best to keep the Panama Canal in a situation that they have some control, and obviously that is what has happening, and the Chinese company is ready to sell shares. It also shows that the Chinese are willing to let go of certain of their interests, possibly to soften what Trump is planning to do.
Which brings me to Greenland. Ambassador Trump says, and I'm quoting him here, "We'll get Greenland one way or the other." As if on cue, Greenland's leaders have promptly snubbed him. They say Greenland is not for sale. Now, this back and forth is taking place barely a week before the parliamentary election in Greenland. Why does Trump want to annex the world's largest island?
Look, I think the maximalist position that Trump is taking, saying that I will kill you so that you get scared, and then you come and say, please don't kill me. Let's talk about it. Let's do a deal, etc. This strategy is now very clear that this bluster and the threats, etc., is basically meant to frighten your opponents or your allies or whoever, and then try to say, okay, let's talk and get to a deal. This is the strategy. I mean, Trump is well known for this, and I think we must all understand that the world has seen through this strategy.
And finally, Ambassador, I want to ask you about Trump's foreign and security and economic policy. Allow me a minute to contextualize it for our viewers. In the 6 weeks, Ambassador, since his inauguration, Trump has snubbed allies in spectacular fashion. Europe by pausing military aid to Ukraine, Mexico, Canada and China by imposing tariffs, and the Arab world by mooting the relocation of Palestinians from Gaza. That's not all. He is equally spectacularly succeeded in inviting retaliatory action from these countries. Europe is mulling putting boots on the ground in Ukraine. Canada and China responded likewise by imposing tariffs on the US. And the Arab leaders met in Cairo to draw up a counter to Trump's Gaza plan. My question to you is this: will it not add to the global uncertainties? Don't we have enough problems as it is for us to now face a new one?
Basically, adding uncertainty is a foreign policy tool. Saying that, look, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then you see the reaction. How the countries react to all these things. And then it's basically like putting the cat among the pigeons and then deciding, okay, this is how the reaction is. Then I must mold my policy according to this. And this is what Trump is doing. And he thinks that by doing this, he will get a better deal than by just going through the traditional diplomatic and other moves that we are normally used to. But then he's the president of the United States, and he can throw his weight around because the United States is a powerful country, a global hegemon. Although that aspect has to be kept in mind, that it's losing its status as a as a global kind of a power, because other countries are coming up and there is a challenge to its hegemony in many ways. So it's sometimes I feel that there is a sense of desperation to maintain that hegemony, but then things change. I mean, the global order changes, and other countries come up, etc. And so we are seeing actually a geopolitical transition in today's world in terms of the international order established after at the end of the Second World War after 1945. So all the international organizations are being undermined. Whether it's the UN or the WTO, and he's already sort of withdrawn from the WHO, which has done a very good job in terms of controlling serious diseases across the world. So this is what we are seeing. Whether this will succeed or not is a question mark. I would still say that he may suddenly then realize that because when the consumer prices shoot up in the American market because of his policies, then I think there will be a backlash from the American people. But I don't know whether this will happen or not, or whether he will himself basically use this to do deals with various countries. I believe it's basically designed to do deals. That's what his mental makeup is as a real estate tycoon.
And very quickly, if I may, Ambassador, if, as you say, multilateralism is dead or is on its deathbed, how should the global South, India included, navigate this so-called geopolitical minefield?
Well, we'll all have to manage it in the sense that India is already trying to manage it. We've had discussions, and I think we are open to trade deals, etc. We do have some high tariffs on certain items, so we have the cushion to reduce them.
Okay.
So I'm not so pessimistic about all this, and I think deals can be done. I mean, this is what international politics is all about. That and they are all. But India is not the largest trading partner of the U.S. It's actually Mexico, then Canada, then China, and then India comes way down in the sense of. So I think Trump has to deal with them first. Those are the big boys in the international trading field. So yeah, this is what is going to happen now, and let us see how it pans out. Because there will be a pushback from the domestic as well as the international, community, in the sense that reciprocal tariffs will be imposed. That will affect the consumer pricing in the United States, and when that happens, I think the President Trump will have to take that into account.
Right, we'll leave it there. Ambassador Chakravarti, thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, and moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a post-budget webinar on employment via video conferencing on Wednesday. He said that since 2014, the government has provided skills training to 30 million youths. He spoke about the upgrade of 1,000 industrial training institutes and the establishment of 5 centers of excellence.
जन भागीदारी का ये मॉडल बहुत रेयर होता है और मुझे खुशी है कि लगातार प्रतिवर्ष इस एक मंथन के कार्यक्रम को बल भी मिल रहा है, उत्साह से लोग भी जुड़ रहे हैं और हर एक को लगता है कि बजट के पूर्व जितनी बातें हम करते हैं उससे ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण बातें बजट के बाद इंप्लीमेंटेशन में उपयोगी होती हैं.
A delegation from the Japan-India Business Cooperation Committee led by its chairperson Yasunaga Tatsuo called on Prime Minister Modi in New Delhi on Wednesday. Tatsuo briefed the Prime Minister on the upcoming 48th joint meeting of the committee with its Indian counterpart, which is scheduled to be held in New Delhi on 6th March. The Prime Minister expressed his appreciation for Japanese businesses' expansion plans in India and their steadfast commitment to make in India, make for the world. He highlighted the importance of enhanced cooperation in skill development, which remains a key pillar of the India-Japan ties. India's Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs has approved the development of a 12.9-kilometer long ropeway from Sonprayag to Kedarnath in the northern Indian state of Uttarakhand. The ropeway will be a boon for pilgrims visiting Kedarnath. It would reduce travel time in one direction from about 9 hours to just 36 minutes. The Cabinet Committee also approved the development of a 12.4-kilometer long ropeway from Govind Ghat to Hemkund Sahib Ji in Uttarakhand.
चार धाम में बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण धाम है केदारनाथ धाम। यहाँ एक 12.9 किलोमीटर का रोपवे बनाने का आज फैसला लिया गया है। करीब 4081 करोड़ 4081 करोड़ रुपीस का ये प्रोजेक्ट होगा। जो बड़ा फायदा होगा वो ये होगा कि जो आज 8 से 9 घंटे की जर्नी है वो 36 मिनट्स की जर्नी हो जाएगी। दूसरा प्रोजेक्ट इसी कड़ी में है हेमकुंड साहिब का रोपवे। हेमकुंड साहिब की जो बहुत बड़ी एक महत्वपूर्ण स्थान है हमारी संस्कृति में, ऐसा केदारनाथ जी में लगता है कि बहुत लोगों को जाने में सुविधा होगी। यहाँ पर हेमकुंड साहिब में भी जाने को लोगों को बहुत सुविधा होगी।
India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has held talks with his British counterpart David Lammy in the UK. The two leaders discussed the entire gamut of bilateral ties, especially strategic coordination, political cooperation, trade deal negotiation, education, technology, mobility and people-to-people exchanges. They agreed to formulate the next steps to further strengthen and structure them. They exchanged views on regional and global issues, including the Ukraine conflict, West Asia, Bangladesh and the Commonwealth. Minister Jaishankar said on X, and I quote, "In an uncertain and volatile world, India-UK ties contribute to stability and prosperity." He took a tour of Chevening House, where he met the Chevening scholars from India. He said that they are a vivid expression of the India-UK people-to-people ties. India's Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Bhupender Yadav, said the Global South is driving the climate agenda and the world now looks to India as a leader. Speaking at the World Sustainable Development Summit organized by the Energy and Resources Institute, he said in 2020 alone, India slashed its greenhouse gas emissions by 7.93%.
The Global South is driving the climate agenda and the world now looks to India as a leader. In 2020 alone, India slashed its GHG emissions by 7.93%, a testament of its commitment to climate action.
The Prime Minister of Guyana, Brigadier Mark Phillips, who delivered the keynote address at the inaugural session of the World Sustainable Development Summit 2025, highlighted the importance of global partnerships to achieve environment sustainability and climate change action.
The global challenges we face, among which include climate change, biodiversity loss, energy security, and economic inequities, demand collective and transformative partnerships.
The Guyanese leader accepted the Sustainable Development Leadership Award conferred upon Vice President Dr. Bharat Jagdev of Guyana for his contributions towards sustainable development. The three-day international conference on circular economy forum in Asia-Pacific ended with the adoption of Jaipur Declaration on Wednesday. 38 countries and a galaxy of experts from the region took part in the event. A report here by DD India's Vishal Baristo.
The 12th Regional 3R and Circular Economy Forum of the Asia-Pacific region unanimously adopted the Jaipur Declaration. The region stands united in its efforts towards saving the earth by promoting circular economy, which is reduce, reuse and recycle.
Global Alliance C3, that is Cities Coalition for Circularity, has also been agreed upon. Now it gives me immense pleasure to announce adoption of Jaipur Decadal Declaration.
Japan has been a strong partner of India in promoting the circular economy in the region. The Vice Minister of Global Environment Japan, Yutaka Matsuzawa, lauded India's efforts in this regard and highlighted the importance of the Jaipur Declaration.
This forum will create the very good opportunity to strengthen the bilateral cooperation on 3R and circular economy, particularly in the proper waste management infrastructure in India.
India has been working in mission mode to protect the 3R economy. The Textile Ministry of India has been quite forthcoming in promoting the upcycle and recycle by promoting startups.
We have registered upcyclers, and these upcyclers, after getting registration from the Textiles Committee, are able to sell their products directly on GEM. In fact, I would also use this platform to request all upcyclers to register themselves with the Textile Committee so that we can promote them.
38 countries from the Asia Pacific took part in the conference.
After 3 days of deliberation, the Jaipur Declaration has been finally adopted, which would pave the way for the next 10 years in Asia-Pacific region. The 14-page document focuses on the participation of private sector along with knowledge sharing amongst member countries. With cameraman Gaurav Giri in Jaipur, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
Good news from the economic front as India's services sector experienced a strong growth surge in February, driven by solid demand and a positive business outlook, which in turn led to a notable increase in hiring. The expansion came on the back of a 6.2% year-over-year growth in the previous quarter, primarily supported by government and consumer spending. The government is projecting a 6.5% growth for the full financial year, expecting urban consumption to pick up following earlier weaknesses due to sluggish job and income growth. Overall, the robust performance in services helped offset a weaker than expected expansion in the manufacturing sector, lifting the composite PMI to 58.8 in February from 57.7 in January. Sports decision makers from India and Australia are meeting in Gujarat's Gift City to discuss about future collaborations. Australia's High Commissioner to India, Philip Green, spoke exclusively to DD India's Meghna Dev about how Australia, which has hosted the Olympic Games twice already and will do so again in 2032, can help India in its quest for hosting the 2036 Olympics.
We are discussing Australia and India cooperation in the sector of sports, and to talk more on this, we are joined in by the High Commissioner of Australia to India, Philip Green. Thank you so much, Excellency, for talking to us.
My pleasure.
We are discussing the sports cooperation, and we know when the annual summit between India and Australia happened, both the Prime Ministers also discussed what more can happen in the sector of sports. We are discussing sports infrastructure, management, training and all. What's more in store and what is the response like?
Well, we think there's a big opportunity here between both Australia and India. We will host the Olympic Games in 2032, and we know that India wants to host the Games in 2036. And that provides an opportunity for us to be able to support India and provide some of our knowledge and technique in its ambition to host the Olympics. We also know that sport can have a transformative effect on communities, promoting diversity, changing environments so that they become more beautiful and available for a wider range of people. So there's a lot to this, and we've been through it twice before. We've hosted 2 Olympic Games. We have another one in 2032. And what we are trying to do is to identify to Gujarat and to India that Australia is ready to be your partner if you want us to be engaged with you in your ambition for the Olympics.
We saw the Minister of Sports of Gujarat also calling for more Australian companies to spend or invest in sports manufacturing in Gujarat. With the technology in terms of sports that Australia has, what can you see? Is there any further expectancy that more industries would come?
Well, that makes sense. Australia is a country that tends to produce more innovation, but we have a small population and a relatively small market. So when Australian companies are looking to scale and globalise, they often need to go to other markets. And part of my job is to encourage Australian companies to think about India as a possible base.
So here we had the High Commissioner of Australia to India speak to us on obviously the sports cooperation between Australia and India, as well as the new roadmap that has been released by Australia in terms of cooperation, economic cooperation with India. With camera person Lakshman Rajput, this is Meghna Dey for DD India from Gandhinagar, Gujarat.
To sports news now, the Entertainers Cricket League has begun with a match between Haryana Hunters and Rajasthan Rangers in New Delhi. Social media influencers will compete for glory in the tournament, which will run till 16th of March. The matches will be broadcast live on Prasar Bharati's OTT platform, Waves.
The social media influencers now have another platform to showcase their skills. They are ready to make splash on the cricket field. The second edition of the Entertainers Cricket League has kicked off with a match between Haryana Hunters and Rajasthan Rangers in Delhi. A total of 32 matches will be played between 8 teams, including the round-robin stage and then the playoff stage. The second phase of the tournament includes Qualifier 1, Eliminator, Qualifier 2, and Grand Finale. The league will run for the next 2 weeks. Bangalore Bashers, Chennai Smashers, Dynamic Delhi, Haryana Hunters, Kolkata Superstars, Lucknow Lions, Mumbai Disruptors, and Rajasthan Rangers will compete for glory. Cricket lovers will be able to watch the exciting matches live on Prasar Bharati's OTT platform Waves. Apart from Munawar Farooqi and Abhishek Malhan, many stars will be seen in the Entertainers Cricket League, which will make this league more exciting. Sushil Kumar's report for DD India.
And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can get the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code now on your screen to download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.